Hi, so today I'm going to be showing you the brew day and talking about my recent Belgian IPA. Do I have a name for it? Let's call it Everything But the Kitchen Sink Belgian IPA, and you'll see why later on. But let's get into the brew day footage. So, here's the final product of my Belgian IPA. It's sort of in a darker orange ambery colour. It's got quite a nice head. It does stick around for a bit. I wouldn't call it like rocky. I don't think it's been laced in the glass, but it's been a few days since I've had one, and it's only been in the keg a couple of weeks, so it's probably a better condition now than when I last tried it. So, before I go any more into the beer, I'll talk through the recipe. So, I say it's Belgian IPA. It came out at 7.4%, so pretty strong on by my standards. 5 kilograms of Munich I is the base malt. I really wanted to try this using Munich as a base malt. I've used Vienna as a base malt for beer, and I really liked the character it gave, so I thought I'd you know, try out Munich as well, go one step further. And then I've got 500 grams of Golden Promise in there, which is actually from, so this is from my last beer that I never made a video for because I made 500 grams of a Smash Simcoe Golden Promise beer. But I somehow managed to leak the whole keg all over my cellar. I think I must have put it back in the fridge with the tap open or closed the tap on the door, and that really sucks. That was a really nice beer, so I was too annoyed to make any video on it, so I just didn't. So I chucked in 500 grams of Golden Promise that I forgot to put in that recipe in this. Then I've got 500 grams of flaked wheat to try and give it a better, like, more like nice head than anything. That's the main reason I put that in there. 200 grams of biscuit malt and 100 grams of Caramunich I. So I mashed that for 1 hour at 65. Normally I don't do 1 hour mashes anymore. I like to keep my brew days nice and short, so I tend to go for like half an hour or something like that. But because it was, pardon me, Munich I base malt, I decided to give it an hour. So then I went for a 30-minute boil, 30 grams of Magnum at 30 minutes, 20 grams of Amarillo and Celeia, which is either a type of Styrian Goldings or similar to Styrian Goldings, I'm not really sure, but it's often sold as Celeia and then Styrian Goldings in brackets. So yeah, 20 grams of each of those at 15 minutes, and then 40 grams of each of those, Amarillo and Celeia, at 0 minutes, and then 40 grams of each of those for a dry hop after fermentation was complete. I also put 500 grams of sugar into the boil to lighten the body and bring the ABV up a bit. And I used Lallemand Abbaye yeast for this and fermented it out at 20 degrees C all the way. And then I cold crashed it in the keg because I've started cold crashing beers in the keg basically just to limit oxygen in the beer. And I did use Browsol P on this. I don't know if anyone else uses that, but it's really good stuff. I think I mentioned it in my last video actually, but yeah, it's like a professional clarifier, and it works really well. I mean, this has took a while to clear up, but it is pretty cold as well, so that's probably part of it. But it often works like brilliantly. But yeah, that's the recipe. When I first tried this beer, I really wasn't sure. I thought I'd really messed it up, and I'll tell you why that is. I put one aside of this in a bottle, bottle conditioned, and that tasted pretty good actually. And then straight out of the fermenter, it's tasted pretty good. But I had 35 grams each of bitter orange peel and sweet orange peel that had been sat around for ages, and I just wanted to get them used before. Well, I was thinking they might get a bit stale or past the best, so I just wanted to get them used up. And then I also used 35 grams of coriander seed crushed. I steep those in vodka to make a tincture. And the way I decided to dose it into the beer, like how much I was going to use, is, and this is a pretty good technique that I read on Reddit, is just getting like probably just a pretty bland macro lager. I suppose something like Bud Light or another American light lager would be the best thing. But I used a bottle of San Miguel that we just had knocking around because my missus likes to drink stuff like that. And yeah, I dosed the tincture into that and get a taste. And to be honest, I ended up using the whole thing because I started with that amount, put it into a bottle of that lager, and it was amazing actually. But I put it into this, and it just seemed to like be too much going on in the beer. Just with everything, with having like a pretty sweet, complicated base malt bill, and then quite hoppy, and then that as well, and then the yeast character. It was just all too much at first. But let's see how it is now. So, before we talk about the appearance bit, it's a pretty nice colour. A bit darker than a lot of Belgian sort of light beers, but I think it's pretty on point for an IPA type colour. And it does look quite appetising. I mean, I showed you the head at first. It's staying around, but it's not a great head, but whatever. I mean, and this glass type also like encourages the formation of head. So I think if I had this in like a tumbler style glass, it'd probably just die off completely. But yeah, getting in for the smell. Yeah, it's got like a sweet honey type smell. You can definitely smell the hops and maybe a bit of the tincture as well. It smells orangey, but you know, Amarillo's pretty like that. It's kind of like a very like orange, zest, like intense citrusy smell. Not the smell coming off it is intense, but that intense zesty smell you get. I'm not sure what the Steering Goldings have added as like a dry hop addition. Like maybe there's something subtle in there. Probably too subtle for me to pick up. So let's talk about the mouthfeel. So yeah, the sugar definitely lined it up a lot. And it goes down quite easily. Especially for a strong beer. But yeah, it's light. It doesn't feel like a 7.4% beer going down. So yeah, it's got a nice body. Pretty on point. Let's get into taste. So, the Belgian yeast character seems to have died back a lot now. At first it was kind of like a banana-y, bubblegummy that Belgian yeast character that I was picking up. And it was quite intense, and I'm not a ginormous fan of very like estery and phenolic Belgian beers. So at first I wasn't sure how much I like that, but now it's died down. It's pretty good, but it's a shame that it hasn't really got any of that character at all. So there's probably like a slight booziness to it, which it's not unpleasant, but I think it'd be better if it wasn't there. There's like a subtle bit of like bready sweetness, but sort of orangey flavour from both the Amarillo, the coriander and the orange peel is like a pretty big overriding flavour. And it's not like a orange juicy type flavour. It's kind of like a zesty, citrusy flavour, but it is a little bit much still. It's not a terrible beer, and it's kind of like a bit of an experiment, this beer. It's kind of like using things up and chucking everything but the kitchen sink at it. So I won't be brewing it again, but you know, it's not terrible. Yeah, I've got the rest of the keg to finish. And I'm off work for a couple of weeks, which is probably a good job, because when you're working you don't really find much time to drink 7.4% beer. Yeah. I've also sent a few bottles of this out. I sent it to the guys on the Competition podcast just to see what they think, because it's like a pretty good example of getting a bit carried away with a recipe, because I think that's what happened. I just went a bit mad. And you can definitely spoil a beer that way. Like, this could have turned out a lot different and better. I think I will make a Belgian IPA again soon. Maybe over the winter. I think it'd be a pretty good winter beer. I like something a bit more intense and heavy during the winter. But yeah, cheers.